And we have a correction from last week. I think this is the first correction we've ever made.
Mistake
in the whole history of the show. This is our first correction, but it's worthy. Maybe we should do a breaking news. Hey, Brendan, you got a breaking news for us? Oh, how about that?
I like that.
So our correction is: last week I said that the first NRA, the first president of the NRA, was President Ulysses S. Grant. He was not the first, although he was a president. It was actually Ambrose Burnside. Ambrose Burnside, which sounds like the first president of the NRA.
Yeah,
Ambrose Burnside. So Zach Goldman corrected us, and Zach, you're going to get a hat in the mail. Appreciate the correction. Anybody that corrects us, anybody that has a correction, please email us, info@gunownersradio.com, and we will consider admitting that we made a mistake. Not always guaranteed.
Consider.
So that's not the only breaking news we have. Yeah. We also have, so I don't know if you guys remember, but a few years ago, they passed a whole slew of gun laws, and a bunch of people got organized and got together and tried to undo it before it got done. And they called it veto. It was, first off, the slew of gun laws was called Gunmageddon. And their effort was called Veto Gunmageddon.
Sounds Italian.
I know. Yes. So Veto Gunmageddon, who is not an actual person. Maybe we should start referring to him.
I think I grew up with him.
With Veto Gunmageddon?
Did you go to school with him?
Yeah, I think I did.
Made a great
cannoli. Knew his sister.
Yeah. So Veto got super organized, put up a Facebook page. Everybody there on the Facebook page is listening to us. They have like 20,000 followers across the state of California. And what they tried to do was get enough signatures to basically at least stall, but hopefully undo all the laws. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work, but they did a fantastic job. So they're having a little bit of a change, and they asked if we would make the announcement, if we would make their formal announcement as to what exactly is happening. So nobody even knows what's happening. This is an exclusive, or as we like to call it, breaking news.
I was sleeping on that one.
Jeez. Okay, here we go. Here's the statement from Veto. To all our supporters, Veto Gunmageddon was started in 2016 by fellow patriot Barry Barami in response to a tidal wave of horrible gun laws, California gun laws, nicknamed Gunmageddon. We the people responded, and hundreds of followers soon turned to thousands in an attempt to stop those laws from going into effect. We proved through blood, sweat, and tears that we are doers. We gathered signatures, delivered petitions, and did the hard work that needed to get done. A lot has happened since 2016. Lessons have been learned, battles have been won and lost. Barry Barami is moving on and has passed the Veto Gunmageddon torch to new leadership. We have a new plan for our future that will refocus our efforts on what we are best at, getting it done. There is no more important time in history for California gun ownership than right now. It is time to get to work. So, let's see. What if we don't? Elected officials will continue to ban and confiscate. Gun owners will continue to be marginalized and vilified. In short, our right to keep and bear arms will be meaningless. Will be a meaningless phrase and a footnote in history. That is why, starting today, Veto Gunmageddon will act as a central location for pro-Second Amendment activity and events. Our posts will be fewer news stories and news articles. Instead, our posts will focus on... The suspense is killing me.
Well, it's a turning of the page.
You don't get music again, do you?
You and them staples aren't getting along.
We'll focus on information for pro-Second Amendment California events and activities that you can participate in, help with, and attend. You now have the power to make success happen. We will rely on you to keep us informed. Need help with an event to teach new shooters? Let us know. Need people to show up at a city council meeting? Let us know. Know of a meeting that gun owners need to attend? Let us know. What do we need you to do? Commit to doing more this year than you ever have before to help preserve and protect the Second Amendment, our Second Amendment rights. Check on Veto Gunmageddon every week before you plan your weekend. Promote Veto Gunmageddon and tell your friends how important it is to get involved. Keep us informed about pro-Second Amendment events happening in your town. Veto Gunmageddon makes it makes it easy for you to be informed, get connected, and get involved so we can see more political victories across our great state. Your right to keep and bear arms has been under attack for too long. Choose your own adventure. And we must all do more to defend and restore our Second Amendment. Victory will not be easy. It is only possible with your help. No more excuses, no more hand-wringing, no more complaining. Let's get after it and be the change we want to see. Thank you all so much for your support. Now let's get started. Sincerely, Veto Gunmageddon.
And where do you go to find all this?
So Veto Gunmageddon is a Facebook page, and it sounds like that they're really trying to concentrate on activities, trying to get people involved, which is how they originated. So if you do a search on Facebook for Veto, V-E-T-O, Gunmageddon, that's with 2 Ds, Gunmageddon. Across the state, what they're looking for is more information on how to get involved. So we reached out to them and spoke, and this is the first time this announcement and this change has taken place. Sounds like they're going to keep the same branding. They're going to stay on Facebook and continue to thrive. But what they're looking for from their followers is to let them know, hey, if there's something going on in your city, let Veto Gunmageddon know so they can post it and get more people and get more help and get more effort.
So is Veto Gun M-A?
So Gunmageddon's one word, Gunmageddon. Veto Gunmageddon.
I'm on it right now. Let's see. Oh, there it is.
There it is. So
there it is.
So I think that's awesome. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was interesting. I think it's that type of activity is exactly what Gun Owners Radio and all the gun owner organizations in Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and San Diego, that's what we're all about too. So hopefully this will help coordinate things across the state. It'll help generate activity, and it'll help make more activities more successful.
Yeah, it's just the kind of thing we were talking about in this week's blog article that we'll revisit here at the top of the hour. So
it will. And Gun Owners Radio, we look forward to supporting Veto Gunmageddon going forward. Again, there are people listening to this announcement, probably listening to Gun Owners Radio for the first time. Welcome. You found a home. So check back in with us. If there's something going on, let us know. We look forward to promoting and supporting Veto Gunmageddon and all the hardworking folks. Also, a very special thank you to Barry Barami, who worked so hard on Veto Gunmageddon and everything that they've accomplished. What a great guy. He lives here locally in Carlsbad, and he's a wonderful guy. So that's what's going on. Stay tuned for the rest of the show. We're going to do all kinds of cool stuff. We're going to interview all kinds of cool people. Bree Warner is up next, and we're going to interview all kinds of cool people. And we're going to have, what are you reviewing for your product?
I'm reviewing a tank top and a hat from Primer & Co., which is like a clothing company that's focusing on two-way clothing products.
You're awesome. So
Interesting.
All coming up.
Yep.
So our first guest, who has been on the show before and is always interesting, is Bree Warner. How are you, Bree?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be back on with you guys. How are you?
Fantastic. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's been quite the year already.
Yeah,
I
no
know,
kidding.
right? Yeah. We pretty much...
Can we do a do-over?
Didn't we hear that? I've heard that somewhere before, too.
Yeah, really.
It's crazy.
Exactly. It's just, I think we were all hoping to escape 2020 and come into like a better 2021. And I don't know. It's a lot of the Groundhog's Day, it seems like.
Boy.
So what do you think of the first few weeks of, specifically, what was the craziest thing?
I think what I found to be probably the most shocking is just this rapid rush of social media silencing so many of the conservative voices. I think that should scare anybody. And I sort of a walking contradiction in some ways, in the sense that I'm in the 2A community and I work, in various capacities in that community, but I am also still working in entertainment. So I do vacillate between two very different worlds. And even the friends that I know and I work with in the world of entertainment that are definitely more left-leaning, I even explain to them, I'm like, it should concern you that social media has that level of power, that censorship is become commonplace now, that it's not just about deleting someone's post or putting them in Facebook jail for 30 days. But now they're literally taking away your right to have any opinion that differs from theirs. And it's like, you should be concerned about that, because right now the attack is on conservatives. But at some point, that pendulum will swing the other way. And I think none of us are safe from that. And we need to really get a hold on that.
So, Bree, what's the response of the left when you say that to them?
It's funny. Once in a while, I think sometimes common sense will actually, get through a little bit, and they kind of can understand where, they're starting to see that level of control over the population is not a good thing. And while right now it seems like it's in their favor because it's silencing the voices that they don't necessarily want to hear, but I do see that even they are kind of concerned with just a rapid overtaking of our society, and where social media has that much power. And I think they're even seeing that as well. And it's funny because especially living in New York and working here, it is amazing to me, our state government, obviously between our governor and plus those that live in the city with de Blasio, you can see how many of those that are typically more left-leaning are just disgusted at how things are shaping up in New York. So it's kind of nice to see them kind of look maybe at a different perspective and sort of see that light of, hey, you know what? This isn't good. And we have a very much an overreach of government happening, at least in this state especially.
So in your Second Amendment life, you do quite a bit on YouTube, social media. Have you been affected?
I have. I joke with my husband constantly because one of the things that I've noticed most recently, in fact, is that, obviously the point of any of us that work in the second, the 2A community, and that we have our social media presence and things like that, obviously our goal is to gain more followership, not from a perspective of like a popularity contest, but obviously we want to get the message out. I work as an instructor, so for me, it's really important to help advocate for people, getting training and really being more mindful of their ability to protect themselves. So for me, social media I do always try to grow it. And one of the things that I've noticed recently is that just followership especially on Instagram, it seems as if that's being truncated. I swear, like I look at the insights, and, for every notification that I might get for new followers, when I go to see kind of what that overall look is, when I look at the insights, there'll be just as many, if not more, almost equal amounts of unfollows magically. And what I find really strange about that is in the past, I've actually had people reach out to me who have refollowed me because they said, you know what, my account actually unfollowed you. I never actually hit any button to unfollow, but that's what's happening. And I'm very curious because I'm seeing that trend more and more with people in the 2A community where their followership is being very much impacted.
Yeah,
where they're kind of at a standstill and they're not growing, and it's very strange.
I've heard some similar and even worse horror stories. Someone here locally, she's a vegan, and her whole Instagram presence is about being a vegan. And she had about 20,000 followers, most of which were, Southern California and specifically San Diego. And she, a couple of weeks ago, it's been about a month ago actually now, she put up a few pro-Second Amendment, because she's very pro-gun ownership, and she put up a couple of pro-Second Amendment posts. She's basically locked out of her Instagram, and she had to start all over again a month later, and there's nothing. They will do nothing for her. That's it, done, after. And this was, not her full-time job, but it complemented what she does for a living. This is basically her ability to advertise. So Bree, tell everybody who people that aren't familiar what you do in the Second Amendment world.
Sure. So my background, basically, I work as a firearms instructor in the Second Amendment world, but I also do work part-time in law enforcement. And I came into law enforcement much, much later in life. This wasn't my primary profession, going into the world. Like I said, I worked in entertainment, and I still sort of vacillate in that world. But, at a certain point, a while back, my first husband had passed away, and I think I mentioned to you guys before, but for those maybe don't know, so my life sort of switched gears when my first husband passed, and it was very abrupt and very sudden. And for me, what it did is it kind of opened my eyes up to, now I was totally on my own. I felt very vulnerable, and I needed to do something about that. And what was interesting is I was sort of introduced to firearms. I started, using them in my daily life. I was one of the few not concealed carry, but, I had a permit in New York City, which was very unheard of at the time. And so for me, what it did is it gave me this sense of empowerment that now I was sort of able to take control of my own safety, and I felt like I could protect myself. And in the process of doing that, I realized that there was such a huge market of women in particular that really wanted to get into, being the same way, being more mindful of their self-protection, becoming concealed carry holders. And for them, sometimes bridging that gap between where do I start and really feeling comfortable in those training environments. Look, the industry is very male dominated, and that's it is. It's fine. It is what it is. But I think there are more and more women coming into the scene, and I think for a lot of those women, it was very daunting to them to go to like a very kind of alpha male sort of class environment and sort of feel like, they were going to be looked upon as like, you're the weakest link, you're the woman in the room. It's like, why do you need a gun? I mean, I've even had students who have literally gone to a gun store and been told by the owner, like, oh, well, why do you need a gun? You don't need a little gun. You're fine, little lady. And to me, I don't understand that. I haven't quite grasped why women haven't really been sort of invited into the industry just yet, but I do feel like they're starting to move in that direction. So for me as an instructor, that's been really important.
And so how do you do with, I've seen you on YouTube with some videos. I've seen that, you have Instagram. What do you get across on video and in social media in order, Second Amendment related,
or try to
move that ball forward, I guess?
Sure. Well, I think, a couple of things. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying that I think for a long time, women in the industry were sort of viewed as the term the gun bunny, that wasn't sort of like a real quest to be a bona fide woman that was going to be, getting into firearms to protect herself, to protect her family, taking it seriously, and being taken seriously. And I think so the message that I've always tried to convey to women is that, look, first of all, you got to get out there and you got to get good training. And, whether you train with me or anybody else, making sure that you're always constantly sharpening those skills. It's not just enough to take a single class and then feel like suddenly you're the master of that. It's always about improving yourself and really putting yourself, outside your comfort zone. And even when I teach women, I do a lot of, women's only classes. I always tell them, like, this is fine to get you started, but I don't want you to ever become complacent in the idea that you can only feel comfortable training around other women. You need to get to a place where you can go into the room and maybe you are the only female in that class and you can hold your own and you're able to sort of do what needs to be done and feel confident. And so that's the thing that I always try to convey to a lot of these women is that you have to find a way to be confident in who you are and your pursuit, because this is your journey and it's going to look different than the next person next to you in a class, but you really got to put the effort in, you got to put the work in and find your community. I mean, I think for a lot of women, having other community of women that, are shooters, that are concealed carry holders, for them, it's really important to have that kind of connection, and it really does encourage them. So that's always something I try to express.
I think the gun bunny thing is kind of an issue. I think it's when I say kind of an issue, I think it's a problem. Have you ever addressed it? Have you ever pulled anyone aside and said, hey, I don't think this is the best way to do it, or have you ever tackled it in any way?
It's tricky because it's, on one hand, what's interesting is that, the groups of women that I sort of matriculate with, we all have that same philosophy. The idea being that we want to be taken seriously, that this is not about, showing skin. There's a difference between being, you can still be, sexy, but it can be classy. It doesn't have to be sort of this, pushing the envelope, if you will, where then it's just it's less about the message, it's less about the gun world, and it's more about just, I need the attention of, some male counterparts to, out in the social media world. And so for me, I have in the past, if there's people that, especially if I'm close to, and I kind of feel like, maybe I have a little bit more wisdom. I'm 44. So at this point in my life, it's sort of like, well, I've been there. Oh, yes, there you go. Well, like you've been there, done that. I was 20 once, and I know what it's like to be, 20, and you kind of make sometimes really poor decisions for yourself. And that's one thing I do try to do when I see, especially a lot of the younger girls coming onto the scene, and I feel like they're going in that direction where they feel like it's necessary for them, in order for them to gain that attention, that they kind of have to go that gun bunny route. And I really try to advocate towards them to not go that way. That again, I don't need you to be, a saint where you're wearing a turtleneck in every picture, but at the same time, present yourself in a way that will empower not only yourself but other women. And, what's your target audience? Is it just about getting male attention, or are you really trying to convey a message and hopefully maybe help other people? I mean, that's why so many of us, especially the women that are in the 2A community that are not gun bunnies, we really want to advocate that positive message and encouraging. And it's like that audience, they're not going to.
Amen. Yeah, so we're talking with Bree Warner and the multi-talented Bree Warner. And I don't know if you heard in that last segment, but we're getting John Correa out here, Bree, and he's going to do his training. And we're actually set up a law enforcement training scholarship so that we can get some law enforcement professionals to take the training. Isn't that cool?
That's awesome. And I have to say, it's so needed. I think a lot of the times, one of the things that I always say, even in the law enforcement community, is that there's just not enough training. It's usually it's a budget issue, it's department issues, and it's so valuable for members of law enforcement to actually get out and do a lot of that training on their own, because it's, it will absolutely save them in those scenarios. And I do feel like sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of departments, sometimes the training isn't as robust as you would want it to be and consistent. So that's a great opportunity.
Especially the type of training that John Correa does. I think he does a fantastic job, as do you. Now, we were talking about how you are involved in entertainment. In fact, that's a gross understatement. You have a career in entertainment.
I know, it's very strange because it's like that's where I started. And then now it's, this second half of my life to kind of, still work in that world, but now have moved into the 2A community as an instructor in law enforcement. It's just very funny. I look back at my life and I'm like, wow, it seems like such an adventure.
I know we have worlds colliding right here. But I've definitely noticed when I go to when I Google you and did some research to see what we could talk to you about. There does seem to be, unless there are interviews and articles that I've missed, it does seem to be that you're either 2A or you're an actor. There weren't a lot of things combining the two. So let's combine the two. Sure. Tell us a little bit about your career. Your first big role was?
So my first, I would say, big role, I booked a guest star role on a show called Any Day Now back in the early 2000s. And that was quite literally, I had just started. So I went to USC out in LA. So that's my alma mater. I went there for film and television. And I was one of those really lucky people. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. Probably, I wouldn't even say luck. I was really blessed. This was definitely a divine intervention, God said. But about a week out of college, at that point, somebody said, well, you know what, you need to get on a movie set. You just need to get experience on a set. So go and be a background performer or like an extra, basically. And so I was like, okay, I have no idea what that is, but that sounds good. So I went and I worked on my first film. It was called Idle Hands, and I was just a background performer, like no lines, just literally in the background. And what ended up happening is on the day they had to reshoot a scene and they did not have enough time to call the original actor. And it was just a couple lines, but they pulled me aside and said, can you say these couple lines? And I did. And I said, great, you're hired. And literally nice. I got upgraded from, a background performer to a speaking role. And what that meant was I actually got the coveted Screen Actors Guild card. So I was able to join the union. So it was just like kind of the beginning of this sort of life of Riley in a lot of ways where I was just really fortunate. And so going back to your question, probably about 6 months out of graduation, I had a manager at the time and started auditioning for a lot of episodic television and booked my first guest star role. And then things just kind of kept going from there.
And the big role, though, the big one that you're known for, that first big role was on a show called Icarly, right? Oh, well, yes.
You know what's funny is I'm probably recognized most from iCarly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of across the board between, adults and kids. It's very funny, especially the kids and then a lot of adults, because iCarly is one of those shows where it's very tongue-in-cheek, and I think a lot of parents enjoyed it just as much as the kids did. And so usually there's a lot of common ground with that. But no, that show was amazing. That was, hands down, probably one of my favorite gigs.
And so you're you went to USC, you studied film. USC is a heck of a school to do that. I mean, that's pretty big time. That's it's not a junior college in the Midwest, learning how to work a camera. I mean, that's pretty big. So I'm assuming this was something that growing up, this was a passion of yours and something you wanted to do. It certainly doesn't sound like it was something you fell into. It sounds like something that you pursued.
I did. Well, it's so funny, though, and I do think that sometimes life comes full circle. And what I mean by that was when, I was always interested in acting. And, when I was in middle school, high school, I was always involved in the theater program and things like that. But as a career, I think at the time, my mother, she was civilian working for the government. And so I was already kind of in that world. And quite frankly, I was actually contemplating, I was starting to look into going to the Air Force Academy. I actually wanted to go into a complete military life. And, at the time, it was kind of moving in that direction. And my mother, I was an only child. My mother, I think, was sort of like begging me, please, like, don't do this to me. Like, is there anything else you'd be interested in? And sort of at the 11th hour, I kind of just did a whole, 180-degree turn and thought, you know what? I've always loved acting. I guess probably I never really thought at that point that I could make a career of it, but my mother was so encouraging of it and was really supportive. So I thought, you know what? Okay, fine. Let me see what happens. And I quite literally only applied to USC and UCLA. I was very determined I was going to get to LA. At the time, I was living in Orlando, Florida. And I was like, those are the only two colleges I'm going to go to. And so I applied to both of those. I have to say, again, really, really blessed. I got accepted to both. The difference was it was actually less expensive for me to go to USC because I was given a massive grant. I was given almost a full ride to USC, which again was like complete divine intervention.
So you're in LA, you're working your way through, you're having a lot of success. Most folks that try acting don't get anywhere near what you've done. So that's amazing. And at some point you transition into law enforcement. How did that happen?
I did. So here's the funny thing, life imitating art, I suppose. It got to a point where I actually started to, the older I got especially, I started getting more involved in a lot of sort of detective roles and, police officers and things like that. And so I ended up doing a movie called Officer Down with James Woods and Stephen Dorff, and I played a detective with them. And that was probably the beginning of me getting really curious because I did a lot of research for the film. And I was fascinated. I was fascinated by that world. I think it was kind of reminiscent of, back when I was in high school and I was potentially thinking about joining the military. And it kind of awoken that interest in my mind. And when my first husband passed away and I started looking at my life in entertainment, and to be quite honest, I love working as an actor. I'm so grateful for it. And I still do it, here and there. I'm very selective. But one of the things that I felt about acting was it felt very self-serving. It didn't feel like a profession that really gave a lot to society. And I guess people can have a different perspective on that. But for me personally, I just felt like I wanted to do more with this next chapter of my life. And so knowing that I had previously an interest in military, I had interest when I was researching for these detective roles. And I thought, you know what, let me explore this. It might be totally crazy, but let me just explore this. And I did, and I really found myself getting genuinely excited about this prospect and found an opportunity that I can do part-time. So it's great. I have best of all worlds.
Yeah, and you're a law enforcement officer. You slap cuffs on bad guys and read them their rights and, dramatically take your sunglasses off and say something cliche.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay. So when you were a kid, I'm gathering that, your pro-Second Amendment and everything, but you also appear to be at least conservative leaning or right leaning. Is that accurate to say politically?
Yes. Again, life being like sort of this full circle, I have to say I was probably my most authentic self when I was in high school. In high school, every morning, at the time, Rush Limbaugh had his television broadcast show. Every morning when I was getting ready for school, I would watch him. And you know what? I wasn't raised in a political household. In fact, we rarely even talked about it. But I would hear his message, and I tuned in, and I'm like, I love what this man is saying. And I was probably discovering who I was as a human being. But we're talking when I was like 17, 18 years old. And so it's funny because when I went to USC, and you're going to this college, and of course in the liberal world, and especially the liberal arts world, you start hearing a lot of these other influences. But I was always quietly conservative. And I think at the time I just wasn't emboldened enough to be open about that because that just wasn't the circle of world that I was living in. But then, as you get older and you become a little bit more confident in who you are, you kind of don't care what people think about you. And that's when I became more and more open about my beliefs. I'm like, I've always been this way. Any friends of mine that were like, well, what happened? You changed? I said, no, I've always been this way. I'm just now making it known. And I'm really happy about that. And I hope more people do that.
That's funny. So you and I are about the same age. We are the same age, and so we were at the same time in high school. This would be the mid '80s, or mid '90s, early '90s, somewhere in there. We're both listening to Rush Limbaugh. I remember reading his books in high school. And then we both did the next logical step. We moved to California. I moved to San Francisco, which is, of course, what you want to do if you're a conservative kid, right? I mean, had no idea what was going on in San Francisco. So you said you're now being a little bit more vocal about it. How was it, though? Were there times you really had to kind of throttle back and say, you know what, if I'm going to make a career in acting, I can't talk about this?
Yes and no. I mean, I definitely saw the more open and vocal I became about things. Unfortunately, I was one of those folks that had everybody in my world on my friend list on Facebook, agents included. And the more open I began speaking about things, I definitely noticed there was a little bit of a weird vibe sort of put my direction. Sometimes I felt like maybe I wasn't, as a client at the agency, I wasn't always getting service quite like maybe everybody else was. And I definitely noticed that sort of pushback. But, I kind of put it out there where I thought, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to dial back, like you said, in the sense that this is who I am. And take it or leave it. If you know me well enough and you respect me, then your respect is going to stay that way. And if you're sort of a fair weather friend where, your opinions about me will change that dramatically based on my political leanings, then I really don't have the time or the energy to have someone like that in my world. And I just kind of started slowly just letting people fall away. They unselected themselves, and how I like to say it. I would never unfriend, and I was always one of that person that was like, look, I welcome contradictory ideas. I welcome, a dialogue about, opposite views. I don't mind that. I've never been, afraid of that. But again, if you are not willing to have adult conversations about things and you have to sort of cut people off because you don't agree with them, then I don't need that level of immaturity in my life. And I just kind of let people sort of fall on the wayside. So
awesome job.
It's been interesting.
And I'm not cutting you off because I disagree with you. I'm cutting you off because we got to go. But awesome job. Awesome job. Bree Warner, extremely awesome. Thank you so much. How do people find you?
So you can find me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Taxigal Inc. I also have a website called taxigalinc.com. So any of those methods.
Thank you, Bree. All right.
Who you got?
Our next outstanding, extremely interesting, fantastic guests are Haiti and Josh from Pro America 360, and they're going to talk about Pro America 360, which is launching, and tell us all about what it can do for us and how to get involved. So, Haiti, Josh, you guys there?
We are.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, first off, thanks for all you do, Mike, and thanks for allowing us to come on and talk about what we've put our passions into these last couple of years, and then thanks for the build-up for our big launch.
You bet. I'm excited about it. So tell everybody, what is Pro America 360?
Pro America 360 is a place that you can find conduits to do business with throughout the entire community. I decided a few years ago that for the health of my soul, I was going to try to do as much business with people that loved America just the same way that I do. And as soon as I made that decision, I just kept getting blessed. And every interaction and the stress fell away, and I really enjoyed myself. And Haiti and I wanted to give back to our country for all they've given to us. So we painstakingly spent the time and learned all the background and what it takes, and we launched ProAmerica360.com, where you can go on and find everybody from the auto mechanic to your favorite restaurant to your chiropractor to your accountant. You get the idea.
Yeah.
But basically, we want to bring everybody in there that loves this country and wants to do that second kind of vote with our dollar. Also, the ballot, but more importantly at this point, the dollar.
So who would? So it's a resource for people. If I want to find some kind of service, or I'm looking to buy or hire somebody, that type of thing. I need, a plumber, or a CPA, or a lawyer, or whatever. I would go to Pro America 360 and do a search and see if you guys have somebody in that field. But why would I do that? What about me and my politics would make me want to go to Pro America 360?
We're trying to shy away from the whole politics, the whole genre and the whole sphere of that, especially given current events and the near past. It doesn't matter whether you're red, white, and blue. We want to have members that are, I'm sorry, I messed that up. It doesn't matter if you're red or blue. We want to have members that are red, white, and blue. We want to focus on unity and rebuilding what we used to have.
Nice. Okay, describe that. What did we used to have? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, we were founded on a pivotal document that gave us an advantage that no other country ever experienced, and we were able to benefit so much ourselves that the rest of the world benefited, everywhere from planes, trains, to automobiles, to medical science, and every innovation you've seen. That comes from the freedom that we were all granted.
So what if someone's listening right now, how would they get involved?
I can answer that for you, Mike.
Excellent. All right, Haiti, go for it.
Yeah, our platform is a call for action for all American patriots. Consumers can now, just the way Josh mentioned, can vote with their dollar every day and support those businesses that hold true to their same values. They can sign up for a free account. I encourage others to do the same. Let us help your community grow into a stronger, better network by finding and hiring those businesses. And if anyone's out there looking to make any extra income or help move their favorite charities forward, we can partner that way up too. Sign up to become an affiliate. You can earn up to $150 for each business sign up. We have a third-party company that will provide you in real-time earnings, pending orders, all the tracking needs. And you can take that as income, or if you like, we'd be happy to donate on your behalf to any 501c3 charity of your choice on a quarterly or yearly basis. And then to the business owners who are listening, on ProAmerica360.com, you can list your business and give patriots the opportunity to find you, because it's not easy starting and maintaining a small business. Your family depends on you. If you have employees, their families depend on you too. It's a lot of responsibility. And as a small business owner, you have the right not to take down your American flag decals on your truck or be subject to just sit there and smile to certain customers in a passive conversation that not only talk down to your values, but ridicule them as well. Whether they know or not what side of the fence you're on, what they do know is that you're not going to hold them accountable because you have to deal with them. And well, I'm here to tell you, you don't. It's okay. Proudly display that American flag decal. There's a stronger, bigger, and better community out there that will happily do business with you. So for business owners, you can go on our site, go to ProAmerica360.com, register your account, add all of your business information, take advantage. We have an independence promo right now where you can get up to 6 months free of your year subscription and use the promo code SDCGO. You're welcome, Mike.
Hey, I know that. I know those initials.
There it is, right? To get that additional 25% off. That's awesome. We really do believe in our heart that we are stronger together, and everybody, all patriots, can be involved.
Okay, so if you're a business owner and you want to reach out and say, hey, I am someone who's a proud patriot, so come do business with me, go to Pro America 360 and check out the offers that you guys have in order for them to be promoted on Pro America 360. Or if you're someone who really wants to make sure they're doing business with someone who supports patriots, who supports America, who loves the red, white, and blue, then go to Pro America 360 and create a free account and look around and see, hey, is there somebody on here that, you can paint my house or cut my lawn or file my taxes or, all these different services that we do every year, right? Is that summing it up pretty well?
Yeah, and there's so many cool organizations and businesses out there that I don't know if it's we just don't think about looking for businesses that way, or maybe we just aren't doing our due diligence. But one great example is there's a cell phone company called Patriot Mobile, and they've been around since 2013. And every time I bring it up, people are like, I had no idea. There is a restaurant in Julian called Heroes, and it is a restaurant based on giving back to all of those who helped and protect and serve our country.
Wow.
And our police officers and et cetera. So there's a lot of really cool, awesome companies out there. And our job is just to bring them all together in one place to give patriots opportunity to be able to utilize their services.
That's awesome. All right, so check out proamerica360.com. Josh, Haiti, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, we got Joe Dramisi, and I guess this was a blog you did this week.
It is. Or
Are
was.
you a
Still
Nazi?
is. No. Am I a Nazi? Yes. And are you?
I don't know.
Yeah, the whole thing, got started here with, you probably heard of Nathan Fletcher last week or
Yeah, he
so.
called us a Nazi.
Yeah, pretty much anyone who thinks Governor Newsom is doing a bad job and maybe should be recalled. Apparently, we're being controlled by neo-Nazis and right-wing extremists and supremacists.
Well, he's up to 1 million. He's got 1 million of them already.
There you go. And it's just I'm sick to death of being called an extremist and a racist and a Nazi and all these other things. So I thought I'd write about it this week and throw it out there and ask, hey, am I a Nazi? These are I listed some of my opinions here in the article, and said, hey, these are some things I think and I believe, and am I a Nazi? You make the call. And I did trigger a Trump hater on our Facebook page. And,
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and then Michael smited him after a couple of exchanges, but yeah, it's the same, because one of the things I believe, one of the things that I listed is the election fraud. I believe there was massive fraud in the election. I don't know if it was enough to actually change the outcome.
Of course
but,
it was.
Yeah, I probably think it was, but I mean, I didn't say that. I just I left it open. But it should have at least been investigated, and that's something I believe. So does that make me a Nazi? Does that make me this guy said a conspiracy theorist and stuff like that? It's just, if you believe...
that's their favorite words to cover over all this.
Well, and that's where I was going. And this is not anything unusual, from Fletcher. I mean, this has been coming from the left and from Democrats, because it's hard to separate the two terms now. For a long time, especially the last 4 years, anybody that disagrees with any of their positions, then you're a Nazi, you're a racist, you're a white supremacist, you're a homophobe. A million different names. And I linked a couple of things in the article because you could find examples all over the place. Nancy Pelosi telling people they should call law enforcement Nazis. The other idiot from New York, the AOC.
You're gonna have to idiot from New York. You're gonna have to narrow that way down.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover there, my friend.
But if you disagree on her ideas on the border, on an open border, which I don't think we should have an open border.
No way.
But I'm a Nazi because of that. So I thought I'd ask the question, and and the other thing is, how did we get to this point? Because gun owners have been seeing this for a long time. I mean, they've been demonizing guns and gun owners for 50 years. And
Longer than that, they've been demonizing guns probably for as long as we've had guns.
Yeah, no, and that's true. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, the same group that right. We still have the problem with. And it's one of the things in our case anyway is we haven't really responded or said a whole lot. And so now we're in a position where if you're a gun owner, you have to fight from behind now. You have to like Bree was saying, you can't mention things in the workplace. You can't, once this COVID stuff is over, you go back to work, you can't tell your colleagues, hey, yeah, we were at the range this weekend, we did this or that, or I shot a match, or I did that. And this is because we let it go. And you see the same thing in the political world, like the comments that Nathan Fletcher made. I mean, there should have been outrage over that. And, I look, San Diego County gun owners spoke up and called for his resignation.
Yes, we did.
And, San Diego County gun owners, Michael was the first to do that.
Well, behind Carl. Carl DeMaio was first. But,
okay.
yeah, we happily agreed and did that immediately.
And Carl DeMaio spoke up, which is really how it should be. And the kid from the Young Republicans from UCSD?
College Republicans from UCSD.
And that's about all I've seen. And that's why I was so just angry with this stuff. We have two supervisors who will remain nameless, two Republican supervisors, though, at the county level, not a word, not a peep. And that's the problem, and wondering what the solution is, because it's it's easy, especially for me too. My tendency is to say, the heck with it, and not say anything. And that's exactly the wrong approach. And people need to be speaking up. And that's why we couldn't have planned this show better. The last two guests that we had on here are exactly the kind of Americans I'm talking about. And what really needs to happen, I think, going forward now is we really need to get rid of what I was called the swamp Republicans, I guess. These people that just are not going to support the country and not stand up for the values that they claim to stand up for, and speaking out against these things. I think what needs to happen is, starting now and going forward to the next election, we need to get rid of the swamp Republicans, and we need to replace them by, again, what I'm calling MAGA Republicans, for lack of a better term, but Republicans that are really going to stand up. Because if we're going to stop this kind of stuff that's going on now without violence or anything like that, we need the politicians and we need that political party to stand up and start doing something.
So you'd be surprised at the amount of effort I'm having to put in. So Chris Rodriguez up in Oceanside.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised, but
yeah, Chris Rodriguez up in Oceanside. He's a city council member. He came out publicly and condemned Nathan's statement. You're going to see more people this week and next, make their statement to condemn what he said. But you're gonna not hear a lot of people. I mean, it's like pulling teeth trying to get elected officials to criticize what Nathan Fletcher, another elected official, said when he called everybody participating in a recall a Nazi, a white supremacist. You wouldn't be shocked. You'd be extremely disappointed, frustrated, and angry at how hard I'm having to push elected officials to hurry up and make a statement.
What are their responses?
No, just no.
Not with any excuse or no. Because if a Republican would have said that, all hell would have broke loose.
Well, yeah, the other side's way more organized. But when it comes to that sort of thing, but it's kind of a short-sighted. Well, gee, do you think he's going to step down? I don't think he's going to step down. Well, that's almost. I mean, ultimately, yeah, that's what we're looking to do, but do it because it's the right thing to do. I mean, if you don't want to, at least come out and condemn the statements. If you don't want to ask for his resignation, at least come out and say, hey, that is not representative of the people that elected me in, and I condemn that statement. Well, Getting him to do it is
let me just question. You've done this a couple of times, and I've never quite understood it. And you've said it that the left is more organized.
Yeah.
What does organization have to do with hatred?
What I'm saying is, if there is a message that needs to get out there. So ideally, I would love every elected official, not just Republicans, but every elected official to come out and make a statement and say, hey, you know what, Nathan Fletcher, we disagree with your rhetoric. So you're basically saying
if they make a statement, all of them stand behind that statement.
If they push a button and say, hey, you know what, our narrative this week is or our target, this is the person we're going to attack, and they push a button and boom, everyone revolves right on.
Yeah, you're right.
And you hear it over and over again.
Yeah. It's impossible. I say our side. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat.
You'll appreciate me, by the way. I got my letter from the Republican Party for donations, and I got my letter from California Republican Party, and I took my envelope, took everything out of it, and wrote a really nice letter stating, until you support my rights, my Second Amendment rights, and my ability to live in California / the other one was the United States, until you stand behind me and my rights and my family's rights, I will no longer support you. Put the envelope in there and just drop it in the mail.
And that's what has to happen. And, like I was saying, with Nathan Fletcher's comments, when I was critical, and I'm still critical of the other two supervisors that I'm not naming, but they, we're the constituents of those two guys, and we were attacked and called Nazis and all these other things. And at least defend us. That's what you're supposed to be up there for.
Well, why wouldn't you name them?
And I named them all last week, but I'm extremely bugged with Joel and Joel Anderson. And just for that, because the two resolutions they supported, because again, they're Democrat talking points, and they could have stood up. But again, they're afraid they'll be criticized if they do, so they don't say anything, and that's a problem.
So I haven't spoken with Joel or Jim specifically about this. My hope, my strategy, is to get more people around them involved in order to so that they can kind of catapult on that.
Bring them on radio.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
trying to, like I said, I'm
don't bring
trying
on
to,
the radio.
I'm trying to get some.
That's not going to go well.
Trying to get, I have some pieces in place in a very specific way. What I'm more disappointed in is that they aren't getting the cover they need to come out and make a statement. So by city council members, mayors who are telling me, oh, gee, golly gosh, squishy, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I'm telling you, you're going to see in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see more. I wish it didn't take this level of effort to an encouragement, but
see what it needs to
excellent
do,
article,
and
though,
it
Joe.
needs to get all Americans wound up, because that, with Trump had a good 75 million, probably 100 million Americans solidly behind him. And I don't want to lose that momentum. And that momentum should hopefully shift to the Republican Party, assuming they're going to stand up and do what they need to do. So,
all right, we got Melissa Lee back in the house. We haven't seen her in a little while. And she has got an amazing gear review. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Hi. It's been so long since I've seen you guys. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah.
So today I am doing a gear review for Primer & Co. to a clothing company. It is a woman-owned business and a very nice young lady. Her name is Mary Dixon. She owns it, and she's a mother. Her and her husband run this company, and she does everything from top to bottom. So she's solo. So I love what she's doing. I think that more women should be highlighted in this industry, in the gun industry, and I think that it's kind of like my job to get these people out here and highlight the women that are in this gun industry, because we're not, we have a hard time trying to get noticed in this and taken seriously in this business.
and that's like what I was going to say when Bree was on here. The best way to get rid of that gun bunny thing is to outshoot the heck out of the people that are saying that. And lots
true.
of women can do that.
That's true. Oh, you know what? And Mary can do that, because I think Mary does 3-gun, right, Mary?
Yeah, I do. When I can.
So, Mary, tell us about your company and how did you come about this company, and how did you get your start with guns?
Okay, so I started Primer & Co. in 2019, and I noticed that a lot of people weren't talking about guns. A lot of people are arguing about guns, but not really having a conversation. So I wanted to have some clothes and shirts that had subtle to a designs and stuff, and to have people look at it and say, hey, what does that mean? Or I don't get that joke. And to spark a conversation of gun ownership. Like one of my shirts says, have a grand day.
I love
instead
that
of
shirt.
grand. Yeah, so a lot of people are like, your shirt's spelled wrong. What does that mean? Is that on purpose, on accident?
They don't get it.
They don't get it. And so you have an opportunity to talk about guns and gun ownership in a non-confrontational way.
Right. So I'm wearing one of your shirts right now, your tank. It's the Glockadot shirt. Someone stand up.
Glockadot. I get it. Like polka
There we
dot,
go.
but they're
Yeah.
Glocks. All right.
It's an awesome tank top. It's got gold Glocks all over it like polka dots. And then also, see this, guys? This is a ponytail hat that Mary made. A big hole up at the top so that when women wear this hat, they can do the high ponytail and not look, ridiculous with a low ponytail when they stick their ponytail through the bottom of a regular hat. So I love this hat.
You don't have to.
Yes, I love
Yeah,
this
you don't
hat.
have
It says
to
Gun
adjust
Day.
your hair or anything.
Yeah, and then Primer & Co. on the edge of your hat. I really like that touch too. So I do love your products. The shirt or the tank top is really soft. The hat is well made, and I like the distressed look. It looks like it's a little bit worn out there, but it's not. It's perfectly new.
Yeah.
So also, I wanted to ask you too, as new gun owners, what do you think about new gun owners and kids and guns? Because you're a mother and you talk a lot about this.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is that you have to teach gun safety. That's what my dad taught me when I was young. And if you're carrying with kids, you have to make sure that your gun is secure. If that's on your belt, that your holster can't pull out or you can't get kicked or grabbed by little hands. So safety is definitely the number one concern with parents and kids, because like kids are so unpredictable. You have no clue what they're going to do next or what you'll be in, trying to get them out of whatever they're in. So having a gun secure and following the safety guidelines is really important.
We know it's interesting now, Mary, too, because I think the environment is different because, being older than Michael anyway. Hey. When I was a kid, we all grew up hunting. All my cousins hunted, my friends hunted, and there were guns everywhere. If I went to my cousin's house, because my aunt and uncle hunted with them, you open the closet in the hallway, and there'd be a stack of shotguns in there. And nobody, we were kids. We never thought to go in there and play with them or pull them out or do anything with them. And part of that is because we all knew about them. I mean, we were all, the parents
you have an education.
Kids. Yeah, and it wasn't a mystery. It wasn't hidden. Today, now that it's been pushed out essentially of society and the schools and everything, it's I think it's a lot more dangerous. I would not do it if my kids were young now. I wouldn't do it that way. I would still keep everything locked up. But I mean, it was things have changed. But yeah, it's interesting how that environment's different now.
Yeah, but you were told when you were a kid, if you went in that room and pulled a gun out, you may not walk right for the rest of your life.
That was implied, but I mean, we still never thought to do it.
Right.
So, Mary,
we started our kids early with. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted you to mention what you have for our listeners too, as well, and then also tell us the name of your website.
Okay. The website is primerandco.com, and we have a 20% off coupon code for your listeners. Gun owners 20 is the coupon code, and we can give away a free T-shirt or hoodie of their choosing.
All you have to do is sign up for the newsletter, and then we'll pick a winner.
All right.
So I have another question too. How did you get into the 2 and 3 gun? I think it's 3 gun that you do.
Yeah, 3 gun. Well, my husband started into it, and it was after our first kid. He was like, "Hey, I think you would enjoy this as like a time away." And so I went to my first match. It was dead cold. It was so cold. Like I couldn't feel my fingers, but I had a lot of fun.
I hate that. It seems like it's harder to shoot a gun and pull the trigger when your hands are freezing. It's so much harder.
Oh, yeah. They don't move. Yeah. It doesn't work correctly. But, yeah, so when I can get out, because I do have 3 kids, so time is precious just to get away. I go when I can, and it's a lot of fun. And I've gone to the Girl in the Gun 3 gun match.
Yeah, that's right.
For the past couple of years.
I think I saw pictures of that. What's really fun that you put in your packages, because when I finally got the package from you for this hat and the shirt or the tank top, is that your business card is a target on the back. And then you have something which you call as 25 for 25. So if you order from her, or you can actually go down to her website and then download this little target, you can place this business card at 25 yards, take a video of yourself shooting it at 25 yards. And if you hit that bullseye, or if you hit the card, then she'll give you 25% off. And
you know what? They don't even have to hit the card. Just try and have fun. Because you know what? I tried it and it didn't happen. So
somebody going through like $50 in ammo.
Ammo, just trying to
25% off.
Just trying to nick that silly thing.
I like it though. I like that. I think make them try.
That is a lot of fun. I think that somebody should just come out with some big gun, some gigantic rifle, and just blow it to bits. Yeah, that would be fun to watch. All right. Well, thank you so much for giving our listeners 20% off on your website. Thank you so much for our giveaway. So sign up for our newsletter. And yeah, it was nice having you on. And give the kids a hug for me, okay?
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Mary.
All right, so
thank you.
Order some more business cards. People are going to start shooting the hell out of them. I have a sneaky feeling. For 25% off. Come on. All right. Thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We got a call in.
We do. We have our very special guest. Our next guest is he's an example of exactly what San Diego County gun owners and Orange County gun owners and Riverside County gun owners and San Bernardino County gun owners is designed to do. He's a perfect example. Our goal, what we're trying to do, is get the right people elected, and we're trying to get them elected on local city councils so that they have a voice and that they can be your Second Amendment voice and that they can influence who else runs. So, when someone runs for Congress or senator or whatever, they run for higher office, first thing they do is they go around in their district and they try to get city council members and mayors to be on their side and say, hey, I endorse this person. So the city council members are truly the workhorses of the political environment in California. So Riverside County Gun Owners has a fantastic board member named Pastor Brian Hawkins. He ran for and won a seat on the San Jacinto City Council. So we had him, and we've heard from him before. He's a fantastic guy. He's a great interview. And we're having him back on here today to talk about his success. And congratulations, Pastor Brian. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Congratulations. How does it feel?
There's a great feeling, kind of like goes with, sports, that individual championship. But, looking at the election result, it wasn't the ideal I was hoping that it would turn out for. But, like you said in the introduction, which I appreciate, thank you for the introduction. I do believe the city council position is really critical, very important. I think a lot of people probably overlook it because they're looking at D.C. But yes, I look at city council as a grassroots, connecting to the community, talking to the people every day. And so it's a great feeling.
Yeah, and you're a board member for Riverside County Gun Owners. That's a growing organization. You guys are doing a fantastic job in Riverside. Certainly don't want to overstate the role they played, but they were extremely proud to endorse you and tell their members and supporters and followers to vote for you. But you're the one that made the decision and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to run. I'm going to step up and do this. What was the catalyst? What made you finally decide, hey, I'm throwing my hat in the ring? Or is that the right cliche? Do you throw your hat in the ring?
You can throw a hat in the ring.
Throw the hat in the ring and say, hey, I'm running for office. What made you make that decision?
2020. Everything about the narrative of 2020, systemic racism, the movement, the anti-law enforcement. I took off the last time I spoke with you, but I drove to D.C. and I realized that, people love patriots in this country, people who love people in this country, in America. And I just think that there's a lack of representation of people who really love America. And that right there was probably one of my biggest reasons running. I'm trying to get away from the narrative of identifying myself as African American. As a matter of fact, when I was in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, I said I want to start identifying myself as a patriot. But that was, one of the biggest reasons why I ran, simply because of the narrative. I wanted to challenge every argument that was made by the media last year, and that's what my campaign was built on.
So what was it like running for office? This is the first time you've ever done it. You jumped in with both feet. You got some folks around you that helped you become successful in running for office. What was it like for someone who's never run for office before? If they're listening right now and they're thinking to themselves, I can't do that. I can never run for office. And gee, I don't know. Tell them what was it actually like being a candidate?
Well, it definitely had, the good thing about it is I didn't experience some of the negative ads, because one of the things I did do myself is I ran my own negative ads, kind of like, Eminem from the movie 8 Miles at the end. I said everything negative about me and then left it to anybody else like you. So, I would say this, start running before you start running. The worst thing you could do is be someone that decide that I want to make a difference, but you've never really involved yourself in any kind of community activity. Like, I involved myself with the Salvation Army, the Chamber of Commerce, different other churches. I sit on the Interfaith Council. I work with local law enforcement. You know, I did the swearing. I actually did the prayer invocation at Chad Bianco's swearing ceremony when he was elected. And so just being involved, the process, you know, it's definitely fun getting out, talking to people, hearing people's concerns, talking to individuals. One of the best things I heard was, wow, you're the first candidate that's ever come to my door. And that made me feel really good to know that people, like, you know, been waiting just to hear from someone who wants to represent them. I say, hey, how can you speak for someone you've never met?
Yeah, and I really do think it's important for there are a lot of, it's really hard to get people to run, and there are a lot of really good qualified people out there that should be running for office. And I think we should encourage far more people to run, especially for local offices. But I also don't want to encourage people to make a mistake. You know, you were talking about negative ads and that sort of thing, and you know, there's a lot of things you got to do, and you can't just decide, okay, today's the day I run and then expect everybody to vote for you. You have to build a foundation. You have to have a track record, and it sounds like that's what you're saying is, hey, get involved in the community, show the community, hey, I can make a difference. I can be a leader. I can roll up my sleeves and do the hard work. I'm not just a guy, you know, full of opinions, because I think people think, well, gee, I have the very best opinions, you know, that anybody has in the whole county. And once people hear my opinions, then you know, the Red Sea is going to part, and we're all going to
says Mayor Mike.
Yeah,
that's not how it works. You got to roll up your sleeves, and you know, you have to get out there and be involved in the community. And you did a fantastic job with that, Pastor Brian.
Absolutely, and like you, and it's funny because people still call me Pastor Brian more than Councilman Brian. You know, which I'm totally fine with. I love being called pastor because it just reminds people that I am a servant and I do answer to God. But here's the thing, too. The campaign doesn't stop the day you get elected. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes a lot of politicians make. They show up around campaign season and they disappear, you know, during the off season. And as soon as I got elected, I literally went in the next day, you know, before I even got sworn in. I started making, you know, plans. We did a huge toy drive for the community. We gave out 1,000 toys at the park. You know, we set up to do a cleanup every third Saturday. You know, I reached out to various different church organizations to get them involved. You know, set up a plan to work with how to clean the homeless. You know, I contacted the police department, the probation department to really say, hey, you know, now that I won, let's get the work done. Like, the election is over. The process is over. You know, now let me do what I was elected for the next 4 years to do.
You know, and Pastor Brian, this is Joe. You know, you are exactly the kind of politician that we were talking about earlier in the last segment in the article that I was writing and talking about. And you're exactly what this country needs right now. And thank you so much for getting involved, and God bless you.
Look at that. Joe doesn't have a good word to say about any politician. So that you earned that, Pastor Brian. You earned it.
I appreciate it. Well, you know, because the thing is, I didn't run, and I heard you say the opinion of Mayor Mike. I didn't run with my own opinion. That was one of my first things. Like, somebody's like, oh, what's your platform? I said, I hadn't talked to enough people in the community to build a platform. Yeah, of course, I can look around and see all the things that are wrong, but not everybody sees the same things. And what's affecting me and my children and my household the same as my neighbors or the neighboring city, you know, areas around my city. And so I got to know everybody, and I found out, yeah, everybody has a different issue. Not everybody sees the homeless problem. Not everybody sees the drugs or the gangs. Some people, you know, stop signs was one of their things. Speeding was one of their biggest issues, like, you know, navigating between individuals' needs. But, you know, I think that if politicians stick to the people, you'll be all right.
You know, I learned that lesson. I went on vacation in Alaska right before the 2012 election, and I was asking everybody on the ground what they thought of Sarah Palin, who was, of course, the governor up there. And it was so funny. Not one of them mentioned, guns or abortion or immigration. It was all these local issues. Well, we used to receive, our checks from the government this way, and now we receive it that way. And well, she used to, have when she was governor, she changed the location of where the legislature met and the schedule and calendar, and that messed me up because I make sandwiches, and they come, and these really, really local issues. Not one person talked about any of the major big things that, so it was always very interesting. Okay, 2021, we're at the beginning of the year. Pastor Brian, what is your priority for the city? What would you like to see get done? What are your plans?
Well, the good thing about it is our last 3 council meetings, we've already gotten a lot done. I mean, our first thing, we bought 2 new fire trucks for our CAL fires because we've been borrowing trucks from Cherry Valley. So we were finally able to secure because of a Measure V that was passed. And so that was the first thing. The second meeting, we were able to put an annex tax on new business development. So we have a shopping center that's going to come and revitalize our economics in our community. In our third meeting, we were able to vote on, which I love the most, because we were able to give money to a lot of small local businesses in the area, without having to worry about waiting on stimulus or anything like that. We were able to help it affect. And so my biggest thing right now is community engagement, inspiring individuals' confidence back in politics, the voter registration, trying to really build that up and try to really encourage a community, to build up, a city to where people really, enjoy living here. San Jacinto doesn't really get the best, reputation and, as far as one of those cities you want to flock to, but it's growing. We have a lot of new business developments, a lot of new homes being built. We have a great council staff that is going. Our mayor, Ledesma, and our mayor pro tem, Crystal Ruiz, is doing a great job leading us and, position us, for great things. And so we're going to fight our homeless problem. That was one of the agendas that I asked to put on last week at our meeting. So we're going to work on our homeless problem and building something for our youth, because we have a lot of youth in our area, in our community, that is now starting to not have outlets. And, I grew up in San Diego, and so I know what absence of good outlets can do for, the youth. And so I definitely want to tackle that.
All right, Pastor Brian, congratulations again. Very, very thankful for your leadership on the city level and your leadership with Riverside County gun owners. And thank you so much for joining us and doing what you do, man. You're doing an excellent job, and I can't thank you enough. All right.
Yeah. So you're going to do the stump, or you want me to do it?
What's her name here is going to do it?
What's her name? Thanks, Mike.
I think it's
Melissa.
Thanks, Mike. I'm
Melissa's
gone for a little bit, and they forget my name.
Yeah.
I see how it is.
Glockadot or whatever is going to do it.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So, question.
Sam,
Ready?
the gun man.
Yeah, let's have it.
Who's it from?
It's from Melanie from San Jacinto. So your question is, if a customer walked into your shop and asked for an 8-round clip for his gun, would you throw him out because it's called a magazine? Or what kind of gun could you safely assume he owns?
An M1, but realistically, and asking for a clip are not M1 owners.
All right, so explain that. So they're basically, it looks like Melanie from San Jacinto was, by the way, thank you so much, Melanie, for the question. We're
No
going to
hat
send
for
you.
you.
Yeah, we're going to send her
a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, or for those of you who are now too afraid to ask, a magazine and a clip are different things. In short, basically, a magazine is, well, they're both containers that hold ammunition for feeding into the firearm. A magazine generally contains its own spring, whereas a clip is just a flat piece of metal, or occasionally plastic, but usually metal, that holds the cartridges so that they can be fed by the magazine into the action. So something that's clip-fed, like a Mauser or a Springfield or an M1, to use the example, they have an internal magazine. You just feed the magazine with a clip. In some cases, like the Mauser and actions like it, you put the clip on top of the receiver and push the cartridges in like that, then discard the clip. But some rifles like Mannlichers, Carcanos, M1s use what's called an N-block clip, which is inserted directly into the magazine and ejected when it's empty.
And you get to hear that ping.
Yep.
Correct.
So that's awesome. Now, one thing I think that you, one of the things that I think a lot of people have a hard time explaining. We all know the difference between a magazine and a clip, but you just nailed it when you said that it's got an internal magazine. Every gun has a magazine. It's just whether or not that magazine is removable or not. So even a bolt-action hunting rifle, where you load them in individually, that still has a magazine. It's just an internal magazine. So one way I explain it, and Sam, correct me if this isn't the best way to explain it, but I tell everybody that a magazine is where the ammo is stored. A clip is used to get that ammunition into that magazine.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Because it has, so the Garand has a magazine, and it holds 8 rounds of ammo. It's just not detachable. It doesn't have a detachable magazine. It's
not
just
external.
Right. Even on like a ship, you were on a ship, weren't you?
I was on a submarine. We call them boats.
You're on a boat. Sorry. But on when you talk to other people who are on ships in the Navy,
I've been on ships.
The magazine was the area where they'd store the ammunition, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's just the area. So that's it's funny. Like I said, we all know the difference between a magazine and a clip. But when you ask somebody, all right, well, explain the difference, and they kind of go, yeah, and then they show a picture. Well, this is a magazine and this is a clip, and it doesn't really.
No, it didn't answer the question.
I have a question for you, Sam.
Uh-oh.
I recently got to shoot an M249 saw.
Exciting.
Yeah, it was so fun. So what are those little metal pieces called after I spend the rounds? What are those things that fall down to the ground? What are those called?
When they're all connected together with the rounds inside, they're collectively called a belt. Once they have been ejected from the action, those are called links. The 249 uses what's called a disintegrating link belt, which means that it basically falls apart as the rounds are being stripped from it inside the action, whereas some other belt-fed machine guns, like I think the PKM, uses a solid belt, which stays in one piece even after it's been emptied.
If anyone has any doubt that
an encyclopedia, Sam.
Yeah, we've had a couple of comments like, well, a trivia over the radio. That's kind of like doing a magic trick that you can't see, right? So you just thought of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just thought of that. Did you even know the answer?
No, that's why I asked him. I wanted to know. And
boom, he just gave us a little mini dissertation. So I didn't. There was no weak link there. I couldn't have fed that to him prior. Nothing like that.
Because you probably didn't know the answer either.
I didn't even know the question until she asked me. No, I didn't know that answer. I didn't know.
Okay, so I have one. So Sam, the one that's a solid belt, can that be reloaded?
Yeah. They used to be during World War I. They used to be made of cloth, and they were reused many times. Modern ones are made of metal.
Okay. By the way, I watched a really good Army movie with Richard Widmark, Take the High Ground.
I know Richard Widmark,
and he was a DJ at Fort Bliss, and he went through the M1 like nobody's business. He busted a kid for calling it a gun. He said it's a rifle. It's not a gun. Nice. Great movie. I thought of you.
All right. Well, awesome job, Sam the Gunman. Again, if you have a question and you want to try to stump my nephew, if we use your question on the air, we're going to send you a hat or a T-shirt, whatever you like.
Sam the Gunman.
If we use your question to stump my nephew, then we're going to give you a lifetime of training at Frontsight. We're going to give you a Frontsight membership. I don't think anyone has. I think one person may have won one, but yeah, awesome job, Sam the Gunman.
Always good talking to you.
Stump my nephew.
Thanks very much for having me on. And I'll be quick about this, but the terminology stuff is important. It's helpful, and as a salesman, I feel like part of my job is to educate the customers. So to the rest of you who work the sales floor in gun stores, never be afraid to use correct terminology, because if someone gets upset with you for giving them good, useful information, then they're probably not the kind of person you want to have a gun.
Very good.
There you go.
Great close. Thanks, buddy.
Good job, Sam. So that's Sam. I'm going to get a bunch of
yes, you are
gloating texts from him on the way. All right, so
mic drop.
Mic drop. Mic drop.
Over the last few weeks, well, most of us were focused on Washington, D.C.'s new president. San Diego elected a new president of their own. I'll bet you weren't even aware. San Diego City Council has 9 city council members. San Diego has what's called a strong mayor system, so the mayor doesn't actually participate in the city council meetings. Instead, the meeting agenda is set by, and the meetings are run by, a city council president. That president is a city council member and picked by the rest of the city council. The city council's president is a fairly powerful position as well as being symbolically important. They have all the power of an elected city council member, plus they have a lot of say when it comes to deciding what issues the city council will consider, plus they tend to be the spokesperson for the city council. San Diego picked, for their leader, an anti-gun extremist, Dr. Jen Campbell. The Union Tribune praised Jen as a medical doctor for being a, quote, scientist who largely avoided politics, end quote. Meaning she's an outsider, and she's smarter than the rest of us, of course, Joe. Having a scientist at the helm of the city council during a pandemic should be a huge advantage and offer valuable, level-headed leadership during this time of crisis. After all, she gets it. She's not some heavy-handed political type. So what does Dr. Jen have to say about COVID-19? Play the clip.
The county has a rule. No more than 10 can get together. Whether it's in your house, whether it's out here in a park, wherever it is. And by God, that is now the law. And therefore, the county sheriff should be here arresting people who aren't wearing masks, who aren't distancing, and who are coming together too strong. Believe me, I have heard my constituents. I understand what you're going through. And this is the worst virus in the history of medicine. It's very dangerous.
Sorry.
Some of you don't believe it, but it's true.
Dr. Jen Campbell hears and understands the struggles of her constituents and compassionately demands they be arrested. That's nice. Arresting people who aren't wearing face masks, folks. Amazing just how quickly a political outsider can embrace the power of insider government, isn't it? Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I've never played one on TV. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But there isn't a sane, rational, knowledgeable person who's making the claim that COVID-19 is the worst virus in the history of medicine. The worst. Okay, it's dangerous. It's serious. People have died. But the worst? Ebola's mortality rate can reach 70%. That seems worse. Smallpox has killed over 300 million people. That seems worse. Hell, rabies, if left untreated, is a 100% mortality. That definitely seems worse if you really want to get science-y, Dr. Campbell. Dr. Jen's election to president wasn't without some resistance. The night she was elected president, Jen explained that she understands and sympathizes with activists who are fighting for racial equality because when she was a little girl, she passed out brown Band-Aids to her African-American friends. That's true. You cannot make this stuff up. Needless to say, she was skewered for equating the entire experience of being black in America to not having the right color Band-Aids. So much so that there's now a recall effort started by her former city council colleague and fellow anti-Democrat Barbara Bree. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm proud of both of those facts. But there's a real problem going down. It is a circular firing squad, and right now she needs to figure out what color of gauze she needs for her political wounds stat.
Absolutely.
Mic drop.